Have you ever wondered how you became an organism filled with billions of cells? What started out as just two half cells transformed into a living, breathing baby, child, and eventually an adult. We can learn how all of these things occurred by studying a branch of biology called embryology. Before beginning, let's cover some basic terms you'll need to understand. Ovulation, when part of the ovary discharges an egg, and pregnancy, the events that occur from the time of fertilization until the infant is born. Let's start out with those two half cells, the sperm and the egg. The sperm are the male gametes, and the ovum, or eggs, are the female gamete. A single sperm's nucleus fuses with the membrane of an oocyte, which is an immature egg, and enters its cytoplasm. This first meiotic division produces two cells, one large secondary oocyte and a tiny polar body. Once this has happened, the oocyte nucleus completes the second meiotic division and forms the ovum and a polar body. Now, the genetic material of the sperm and ovum combine in a process called fertilization, and a fertilized egg is formed. This is also known as a zygote. This zygote is the first cell of the new individual. Next, let's talk about fallopian tubes. These are tubes that extend from an ovary to the uterus. The zygote now travels down the fallopian tubes with the help of peristalsis and cilia. Now it will begin going through rapid cell divisions. This is an early stage of embryonic development called cleavage. Cleavage provides a large number of cells to serve as building blocks to build up the embryo, which is an unborn offspring in the process of development. Now the developing embryo reaches the uterus, which is a hollow organ that receives, retains, and nourishes the fertilized egg. Here it is a morula, a small cluster of 16 cells. The uterine endometrium is the inner layer of the wall of the uterus, and it is not ready to receive the embryo yet, so the embryo floats freely in the uterine cavity. The uterine cavity is the space inside the uterus. It uses what the uterus secretes to survive, and the embryo stays unattached and develops until it has around 100 cells. Then, it hollows out to form a ball-like structure called a blastocyst. The blastocyst cavity is the fluid-filled cavity developing in the morula as it becomes a blastocyst. The blastocyst has two crucial functional areas, the trophoblast, which forms the large fluid-filled sphere, and the inner cell mass, which is a small cluster of cells on one side. By day 7 after ovulation, the blastocyst has detached itself from the endometrium and embedded itself in the mucosa. While all of this is happening, the primary germ layers are also forming. They are the ectoderm, which gives rise to the nervous system and epidermis of the skin, the endoderm, which forms mucosae and glands, and the mesoderm, which gives rise to almost everything else needed. By the 14th day after ovulation, implantation usually has been completed and the uterine mucosa lining has grown over the buried embryo. After it is implanted, the trophoblast part of the blastocyst develops projections called chorionic villi, which give a maximum area of contact with the maternal blood and combine the tissues of the mother's uterus to form the placenta, which is a flattened organ in the uterus that nourishes the fetus through the umbilical cord. The embryonic body is now surrounded by a fluid-filled sac called the amnion, and it is attached to the placenta by a stalk of tissue containing blood vessels called the umbilical cord. By the 3rd week, the placenta is delivering nutrients and oxygen to the embryonic blood and removing its wastes. You can see a more detailed version of this stage in this drawing, which shows a developing embryo at about 18 days. At the end of the 2nd month of pregnancy, the placenta has also become an endocrine organ, producing hormones such as estrogen to help maintain the pregnancy. By the 8th week of embryonic development, all of the organ systems have begun development, and the embryo begins to look like a human. At the 9th week of development, the embryo is referred to as a fetus. From this point on, major growth and organ specialization occurs, and the head-to-body ratio of the fetus changes. During the fetal period, the fetus grows from a length of about 1 inch and a weight of about 0.03 ounces to about 14 inches and 6 to 10 pounds or more. Usually, the total body length at birth is about 22 inches. With such great growth, change in appearance is dramatic. By approximately 270 days after fertilization, the fetus is said to be full term and ready to be born. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned a little something about how you became you.